April 4th, 1858. As the British stormed Jhansi Fort, their cannons still smoking, their boots soaked in blood, they were certain of one thing. Rani Lakshmi Bai was dead. No one could have survived what they did to Jhansi. Not a queen, not a mother, not even a warrior. But they were wrong, because in the chaos, as fire swallowed the city and betrayal cracked its foundation, the queen disappeared. This is the story the history books only whisper, the untold escape of India's fiercest warrior queen, and how, in the darkest hour, she outsmarted an empire. Let's begin with betrayal. Just weeks before the siege, Jhansi stood strong, a walled city, a proud city, a defiant city, and at its center, Lakshmi Bai, widowed young, left without a biological heir, but never without resolve. When the British East India Company tried to seize Jhansi under the doctrine of lapse, she refused. They said a child adopted by a king had no claim to a throne. She said, "Mera Jhansi nahi dungi. I shall not surrender my Jhansi." She wasn't just fighting for a kingdom. She was fighting for justice, for her people, for the idea that Indians, especially women, could rule their own land. But her courage frightened the British, so they came for her. Led by Sir Hugh Rose, over 20,000 soldiers surrounded Jhansi. Heavy artillery, siege engines, no mercy, and they waited. Outside the walls, British cannons thundered. Inside, tensions grew. Then came the betrayal. Behind closed doors, a few of her trusted ministers broke. Fearful for their lives, tempted by British gold, they met with the enemy. In Captain Gordon's own words, recorded in a British war journal, "We offered leniency. Her own ministers opened the gate." Those words haunt the legacy of Jhansi. On the morning of April 3rd, the British entered the city through a back gate, unguarded. Within hours, blood ran through the streets. Homes burned. Children screamed. The air turned black. Lakshmi Bai fought from the front line, sword in hand, armor gleaming, but she was outnumbered, outgunned, and betrayed. She had one final mission: to protect her adopted son, Damodar Rao, and to stay free. Because capture meant humiliation, imprisonment, or worse, execution in chains, and that she would never allow. That night, as the fort crumbled and hope seemed lost, she made her decision. She would escape, not for cowardice, not for survival, but to continue the fight, to gather her allies, to strike back, harder. She tied Damodar Rao to her back using a silk shawl, fastened tight so he wouldn't fall in battle, so he wouldn't slip in the chaos. She kissed his forehead and whispered, "Hold on, my son, for Jhansi, for Bharat." Then she mounted her most loyal horse, Badal, a majestic black steed trained for war, fearless in flame. Around her, her personal guards prepared. Some were women, some were men. All were ready to die to give her a chance to live. And she rode through alleys filled with smoke, past shattered temples and burning homes, the roar of cannons behind her. Her horse galloped over fallen enemies, over wounded friends. Then came the fort wall, a massive drop, nearly 20 feet. On the other side, a ravine, rock, thorns, and escape. The path was madness, but madness is where legends are born. The British never considered anyone would attempt such a jump. They underestimated her once. They wouldn't live to do it again. She charged the ledge, faster, faster. The wind tore at her face. The hooves cracked stone. Damodar cried out. She closed her eyes and leapt. The earth fell away. For a second, there was only silence. Then, a crash. Badal's hooves slammed into dirt. The queen leaned forward. Blood ran down her arm. Damodar was still tied to her back, crying, but alive. Badal had broken his leg. He would not ride again. He had given everything. Lakshmi Bai dismounted, kissed his mane, and fled into the night on another horse, with her guards and her son. She was alive, and she was free. But what happened after? Here's where myth and truth blur. British record, silent. Some say she died in the jump. Others claim they found her body, but none of them ever produced it. Villagers outside Jhansi told a different story. One elder testified, "We saw her ride west toward Kalpi. She moved like lightning, like Durga herself." Another British officer, Lieutenant Dowker, wrote, "Rumors abound that the Rani escaped. I cannot confirm her death. It troubles the men." In Kalpi, rebels claimed she joined forces with Tatya Tope, that she led armies, that she fought at Gwalior, that she died a warrior's death, sword in hand, on June 18th. 1858. But even that is debated. Some say she lived longer, that she changed her name, that she continued fighting as a guerrilla leader. There's even a theory that she moved south and lived in anonymity as a saint, mentoring young girls in self-defense. It sounds like folklore, but is it? How do we explain the fear?